Well, let's start with a global view, an overview about which is the percentage of the global pharmaceutical market in terms of sales, based on different geographical areas. Well, here you see these numbers are coming from the different years since 2014. In 6 years, you see that the evolution is not very different. So we are living more or less the same fluctuations, the same proportions between the different markets. So the US is managing practically the 50% of the sales market around the world. And the rest is split between Europe, other established markets are China and Japan, and the emerging markets that are more led by South America and also some African markets. Well, the thing is that, well, we are living more or less a constant proportion of this market. Well, considering that practically the 50% of all the market is managed by the US, and we are talking about $1 trillion market, it seems that the US is a reference point to have in front of us. And for the reason you will see that during the presentation, I will use several times, I will use the reference of the US, because sometimes we have not to reinvent the wheel. The wheel is already invented, and we have a reference that is going very well. So why not to look at this market and check what's happening in other markets in order to have a reference? So this is the reason about why we're putting a lot of attention on this market, which is the need of a CXO. Let me say, I will mention CXO as a potential CRO, CMO, CDMO. We will see later. But the reality is that we are living a performance pressure. Traditionally, the pharmaceutical industry has huge margins in terms of sales, but nowadays the personalized medicine is increasing the 42% of all new drug approvals by the FDA, and that means a lot. So we don't have many approvals coming from classical chemistry drugs. We have a lot of approvals based on personalized medicine. In terms of process intensification, I think that it's important that has been multiplied per 10 the output of the same unit capacity that comes from continuous processes. So higher titers, for example, they are required more efficient in the equipment, in the assets that the pharmaceutical industry is applying, because traditionally the pharmaceutical industry didn't take care about that. They had gross margins. They didn't care about if my process is efficient or not. Nowadays, with the globalization and the patents expiration, the finish of the blockbusters are transforming this new market. So pharmaceutical industry requires this process intensification. And in terms of generics and biosimilars, it's important to notice that more or less we are experimenting a 50% of reduction in average of leading product for in the therapeutical areas. So that means that generics are not a great business for top big pharma companies. It seems that they are pointing out to the personalized medicine rather than the generics if they have to bet for something. In terms of complexity and digitalization, this is the global state of the different business in the industry. Well, regarding the digital adoption, so how much willing are the business areas in terms of adopting innovations based on digitalization? Well, the pharma, considering this average in the 33 points, let me say, the pharma is under the average. And that means that we have a lot of room for improvement in terms of digitalization. Regarding the top big pharma companies, always we talk about the top pharma companies. And finally, this figure, only the US pharma industry is wasting more or less $50 billion in inefficiencies. So that means that there are a lot of inefficient tasks performed in the pharmaceutical industry that they are never recovering because it's completely lost. And this is the reality that we are living. So what could be the, not the effects or the root cause of this reality? Well, the thing is that the 70%, more or less, the 70% of the data that manufacturing industries are producing are never used. And only in the pharmaceutical industry, with more specific focus in the pharma, this figure is going to 85%. So the 85% of the data in manufacturing pharma that we produce is never used. So we are losing a lot of power, considering that data is the oil that needs to move all the machinery regarding information. And the other reality is that the pharmaceutical industry needs more agility. I don't know which is your experience with top pharma companies, but believe me, they are so slow. So they need to maximize the yield in terms of production goals. They need to increase the capacity utilization. They need to increase the predictability in order to supply a best or a better production. And this is not happening nowadays. In terms of trade-offs, well, nowadays, the big pharma companies, they are creating departments in order to optimize the cost, considering risk and considering the speed that the market is requesting. So at the end, it's a trade-off, it's a balance that these companies, they have to achieve in order to be competitive in the global market. But we have a third item in terms of agility. We need to ensure quality and compliance. So safety, safe working conditions with minimal deviations, and the risk regulatory in order to be always compliant with our product. So these three topics are a reality nowadays. Is something that the pharmaceutical industry needs to adopt in terms of agility. And this is very well aligned with the concept, with the Pharma 4.0 concept. So at the end, the digital transformation is an imperative requirement in order to be competitive. Everywhere where you go in the industry, they are adopting digitalization in a broad and strategic perspective. That is not happening nowadays in the pharmaceutical industry. And we will see that that would be a good point in order to be attractive for a CDMO or CRO. Let's just start a little bit with this CRO, CDMO concepts. We will go in details about the concept, but let me first make a global view. This is the mid-size companies in terms of CRO concept, only contract research, not contract development and manufacturing. We are now just looking at the contract research. In this case, we have several logos in 2010. This is the number of mid-market that we had at this time. 9 years later, a lot of logos disappear. What do you think? They disappear because they didn't have enough work? They closed the company? Well, this article is coming from 2008. It's an example, so we will see different news and articles. Well, the thing is that all those companies were merged or acquired by giants or another CROs or CDMOs companies. The thing is that the market in the CRO sphere, CDMO sphere, is really dynamic, and it's really interesting for investors, for the market, for other big pharma companies. So you will see that the movement, the transition between mid-size or large size is so quick and fast. And we will try to analyze why. In this graphic, we are looking at the trade-off, the balance between the research and development spend, investment that top big pharma companies are doing, and how they are transforming this investment into sales. Sales is in green. In red, we have the money that they are spending for the top pharma companies. Well, you will see that although it's not linear, so we don't have a direct relationship between if I spend more in R&D, I will have more money in sales. Well, there is a relation, there is a relationship, although it's not direct. But you see here how much money these companies are investing in R&D. Well, on the other hand, in the right hand, you see the revenue in billions of dollars based on the type of service that a CDMO market is producing. Well, you see here that practically is more important the revenue that CDMOs are getting based on API, so active principal ingredients and bulk drug production. This is the main stuff that they are dedicating. They are getting more benefit, but also the drug and product manufacturing. This is more CM. Is the M of the CDMO and CMO is this middle red color is drug product manufacturing. So this is a huge amount of money also. And finally, the packaging. The packaging is another key topic that we will discuss during the workshop. Well, here you see the three main areas that are bringing more money and that they are more projection on the future regarding the CDMO activities. In this case, we are adding, remember, the M in this middle area. Well, packaging, let me share with you some comments that I'm getting nowadays from top big pharma companies, for example, in Europe, some of them in Spain, for example. The larger CDMO producer in Spain is managing packaging. These guys, they are having benefits negotiating in the raw material, in the packaging, not in the producing the drug itself. So negotiating with the blistering, the aluminum, the carton, with the suppliers, they are getting benefits. So we're talking about very low ranges of benefits in this case. And this is the same topic that it's happening more or less in the CRO market. So if we talk about the different areas where CRO are making business, always considering the US as a reference, well, you see here different areas: toxicology, bioanalysis, compound management, safety pharmacology, chemistry. So you see here the different areas, but more or less, except this one, that the final one that is gathering, for example, concepts like clinical trials and so on, you see here that it's very well distributed between these areas regarding the CRO activities. Regarding the geographical zones, geographical areas, well, again, the US is the most attractive market, but we see also very well aligned market in Latin America, Africa, Europe, and Asia. Okay. Well, here we see the percentage clinical is one of the areas that are providing more content, more work for CROs. Well, so we were talking about dynamics. We were talking about evolution. We started in the previous slide. We started in 2010 with some logos, and we saw how some of these logos disappear. The thing is that in 2010 there were 5 large CROs that at the end were consolidated, and in 2019 we have nowadays 7. Well, in 2022 we have 8 mega large CROs. So it's in 5 years more or less, in 10 years more or less, since 2010 until 2020 more or less, the number of large CROs has not changed a lot. So we have increased just 3 main logos. Why? Let me put an example. IQVIA is a very known CRO, was the 39 larger than average in the mid-sized CROs collection of logos. The same company 10 years later was multiplied their activity by 100. So that means a lot. So this activity, that means that this necessity is something real in the market. But in the contrary case, if we will put the attention in the smallest, in this case, Icon, it was the smallest large, it was 12 times the size as you can see here, the $10 million, but 10 years later, it multiplies per 29, this mid-size. Nowadays, IQVIA is considered, well, one of the most larger companies in this space. What does it mean? It means that the CRO market has been consolidated during this last century. Well, what we can see in this slide, we see again the projection of this CMO and CRO market. Well, that means that this workshop, it makes sense if you are thinking in a CDMO or a CRO as a possibility to deliver services for big pharma companies, because at the end, these big top pharma companies that we will see, they are delegating all the classical or all the, let me say, non-added value for them tasks into CDMOs, CMOs, and CROs. And this is the reason why the projection is growing up continuously, year. This is the main reality, and this is the reason about why. If we move forward with more graphics, this is the graphic. I like this graphic because it's representing very well the level of acquisitions from CROs, from top big pharma companies or other companies. In this case, we see which was the acquirer, the year, and who was the target, which company was merged or acquired. Probably you have listened Pythion. Pythion was an amazing big CRO CDMO company. Well, the thing is that this company was acquired by Thermo Fisher in 2017 by this amount of millions of dollars. It's amazing. But if we are looking at the same company, for example, Thermo Fisher, it appears again in this line. So they acquired 2 years ago, three years ago already, to Brammer Bio. And if we see, for example, if we put the attention now in Amri in 2016 acquired Euticals. But later on, Amri was acquired by Carlyle, GTCR, just 1 year later. So could you see the market of CROs and CDMOs is so dynamic. It's evolving very quickly because there is a need. There is a need in the pharmaceutical industry around how to delegate tasks from top big pharma companies that they are moving billions of dollars. So we are talking about a market of trillions of dollars around the world. They are moving all those tasks to CDMOs, CROs, and CMOs. And this is the size, more or less, this is the size of the companies and the number of companies in 2017 regarding the revenue. In this case, only the 3% of all the CRO, CDMOs market is managed between, well, less than 500 millions. So we have a large majority of companies with revenue more or less around 25 millions. Okay, I think that could be a good picture about where we are nowadays and where we would like to be in this pie chart. So are you thinking to be part of this chart in some of these activities? Which kind of large companies you are thinking on? We're talking about 200, practically 300 players in this graphic. And well, this is the evidence, no? So we are talking about figures, but which kind of evidence we have? All these news are really recent. For example, we have AstraZeneca closed this mega acquisition for Alexion, 39 billions of dollars just for rare diseases. This is coming from July past year. We are talking about December past year about this other pharmaceutical acquisition. So we are talking about Catalent, Recipharm. So they are so large, and this is the effort that pharmaceutical companies, top pharmaceutical companies, are doing in order to be more competitive. And I think that this is important to have in front of us continuously. So companies like Novartis, they are selling some of their sites, for example, in Switzerland, they are selling the full sites because they are completely conditioned for drug manufacturing, for generics, or for blockbusters, but they are expiring their patent. So they prefer to invest their new strategy in other kind of drugs, personalized medicine or ATMPs. It's a completely different market. So all the big production, they will have the control in terms of productivity and branding, but the production will be delegated. So the best proof of that is that big pharmaceutical companies are selling their facilities with all the teams, with all the people, and all the assets inside the facility. That happens, for example, with Novartis in Spain. They sold 2 big pharmaceutical site facilities, one in Barcelona and another one in Madrid. And the reason is because they prefer to invest all their strategical efforts in the new market. And this is the CDMO market based in 5 years ago now. We don't have data already updated, but I think that it's interesting to see how this key indicator, the CAGR, so this is the compound annual growth rate, is like a rate of return. And it's required to, well, it's giving an idea about which kind of return of the investment a company that wants to acquire another company needs to invest. So this is the growth, the percentage of growth. Well, we see that in North America, since 2018 and 2025, practically the market will grow up in $10 billion. So we see an increase in all the markets. In Latin America, we see also an increase of this percentage. But could you see what happens in Asia? Is multiplying per 2, is 2 times the value of the initial trends. So this is so crazy how this market is going up. So the idea is that as far as the population is having state of life, of welfare, more accommodate, means that they will have access easily to the drugs. And we have already checked that during the COVID-19 pandemic. It's very difficult to provide in a very short time an urgent medicine as the vaccine was, or any treatment for the COVID-19. So how much difficult is for these top big pharma companies accommodate, update their facilities in order to provide services, drugs, therapies for such huge population that is increasing around the world. So it's not possible. They have 2 options. Or they update, they invest a lot of resources in order to update and upgrade their current facilities in order to be competitive, or they keep the branding, they keep the knowledge, and they delegate the process, the manufacturing process and other services to third companies. And this is the reality, and this is the reason about why we see this huge increase of markets.